Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's journal for all seasons. Now I don't exactly know what I'm going to do except I got a couple of ideas and so we'll see where it takes me. And my spread this week was the other side of the book page, sorry it's wet, which I put Gertrude Ducal on last week and I've gessoed it, and the other page was a bit of old sheet, because on the back of it for next week is an image transfer. And I had gessoed the other side already to do the image transfer, but this side I hadn't, so it's literally just some old cotton sheet, so I've gessoed that as well. So I've got kind of something of a plain double page spread to work on. So I did that before I started filming because you don't need to watch me slapping gesso on things. I think you've seen enough of that already, so I'm going to put that to one side and hope that Fred doesn't sit on it. So I was watching Julie at the Still Room Journals, I'll link to her video, and she got some wet strength tissue paper and she painted it with the tester pots when you buy emulsion paint, you know, the little tester pots to see the colours, and then she collaged on it and she stitched on it. Now I don't have any wet strength tissue paper, but I've got lots of normal tissue paper, so I thought I'll tape this down to my surface, and I'm not going to paint it. Just getting the tape, sorry, excuse me, should have been better prepared. I'm not going to paint it, I'm going to collage on it first. So I thought I've got loads of this packaging type tissue, you know. I thought if I just use that as a foundation, then it won't be very thick, so I can collage and it won't get super bulky. I think they call this doing a masterboard. But I'm just going to tape it down in the hope that it stays put. I'm going to cut it or tear it up afterwards, so I'm not worried really about getting all the way to the edges. This is very much an experiment and I'm taking you with me. Someone else I wanted to talk about was Mary Ellen. I've talked about her before at the Red Parrot channel, who does painting and junk journaling and stuff like that. She just did a wonderful video called, oh dear, it's a golfing term when you do it all wrong and you have to do a do-over. Is it mulligan? Is that the right word? If it's not the right word, I'll flash the right word up on the screen now. And she was talking about being authentic in our art, you know, and how you watch lots of videos of people that are expert at what they do, or it's edited so that you don't see their mistakes or whatever, and that it's important to be authentic, to give people watching comfort that, you know, you don't have to excuse me, you don't have to do it perfect first time or any time. It's all about the process and so on. So I recommend, if you don't watch Mary Ellen, that you go and listen to that. And because yeah, I was shouting agreement at my screen the whole time I was watching her. So all I've done is pull out this load of scraps from my scrappy shoebox, and I've got my glue stick and I've got my Mod Podge in case there's slightly thicker bits that the glue stick doesn't work with. But I'm going to try and use glue stick just because it dries quicker. Ooh, the Mod Podge was laying on its side and now it's gone all moddy podgy. And yes, I am wearing rings. I used to wear loads of rings all the time. I thought I'd just give it a try, just wearing one or two. So I hope that, you know, they don't get in the way of my gluing and that you don't think they're not my hands. They are my hands, look, they're still my hands. Just with rings on. I actually took some off, I had more than those on. I thought I'd ease you in slowly to the rings. I'm never ever going to have long false nails, so don't worry. Anyway, if you were. I never did that before. I'm not going to start now. So I'm just going to stick bits on pretty much willy-nilly. I don't mind if I get Mod Podge on the tissue paper because it's going to get other stuff stuck on. I'm not making a pretty picture or anything because I'm going to cut it up afterwards, so composition isn't really important other than the process, and I'm hoping that this taping it down thingy technique will work. I got far too many scraps out. I can't be doing with straight edges though. I have to tear them off. That's just me. Those are already torn, that's okay. I don't have to go next to it, I can go anywhere I like. So I'm just going to cover this whole bit with bits of collage basically. and see where I get to. When I opened YouTube this morning to have a look at your comments, I use the app, the YouTube Studio app. For some reason, and I'm not complaining, this is merely an observation, but I've heard other people saying it before, my analytics, which I try not to pay too much attention to, but they're right there in your face when you open the app, had gone right down. And I'm sure that, well, I hope I haven't said or done anything to offend anybody or whatever. I don't think my subscriber count had gone down particularly. Like I said, I try not to pay too much attention to it, but they do everything they can to make you pay attention to it. But, you know, if you don't know, if you're not a YouTube creator, why would you know? It says things like, oh, your watch time has gone up or down, and if it's gone up it's all in green, and if it's gone down it's all in black with big black arrows pointing downwards. They don't quite put the sad-faced emojis, but it's almost that. But it's just taken a dive since yesterday. I have no clue why. No clue why at all. Something to do with the algorithms, who knows. I seem to be using Mod Podge even though I said I was going to use glue stick. It's because it was there so invitingly. So I think the idea of these masterboard thingies is when you get all these little scraps, you just paste them onto a big surface, so a bit of book page, why not, and create these big sort of boards of collage that you can then cut up and use for other things. And it's kind of a way of wrangling your scraps, I suppose, and you can just cut them up to make journaling cards or things like that. I don't think I'm going to do that with this one. And also, I think some people glue their scraps into books. I don't know if that is, but why couldn't you? For, you know, tearing out again. But I just like the idea of using your scraps. Of course, you make more scraps in the process. And kind of getting them into a manageable, usable type format. That makes sense. I really did put that on with no thought whatsoever. And I think it's the kind of thing you can do if you're just feeling a bit stuck, or you've got a case of the blahs, or you're not feeling particularly creative, you know, or you don't know what to do. You want to do something but you don't know what. You can just sit down with a pot of glue or a glue stick and a pile of scraps and some kind of surface and just stick them on. And if you haven't got scraps yet, you can always just tear up a magazine or something. This is a bit of tissue that's had all kinds of yumminess done to it. I don't know how I'm going to... I don't like to put the glue on the tissue, but this is also tissue, so maybe I'll try the glue stick. You can always put a little layer of Mod Podge over the top, because it just becomes really unhandleable. Is that a word? No, unmanageable when it's wet. Whoops. Don't really mind if it goes a bit wrinkly, I suppose. I'll just put a bit of glue under the edge. And then the other edges will get something else stuck over it, or whatever that is reactivating. I think I did that at my friend's, because she's got all this fancy stuff in her studio. So I'll go ahead and just, you know, you get the idea, I think. And just fill this whole page with scraps, torn willy-nilly. And then I'll let it dry, and then I'll be back when I've worked out what I'm going to do with it. Okay, I finished my sticking, and it's all nice and dry. Oh, a little beastie's just falling out of my hair, and then I'll just put him outside, excuse me. Open the window. Go on out. He's gone. Sorry about that. Oh, he hasn't gone, he's still there. Oh, there was two. I don't want you on my collage. Oh, there you go. Can you fly? No, he's gone. Sorry about that. Yeah, I realised when I'd finished that it was sticking a little bit here and there because I've got cardboard under it, and I did just manage to gently peel it off before it was dry, but that's because I used the Mod Podge. I don't think it would have happened with glue stick. But it's quite sturdy now. I've torn that corner, but that doesn't matter. I'll get the tape off it. Like I said, I'm going to cut it up, I think, and I was thinking I actually had my lunch while I was waiting for it to dry, of circles, because I am often thinking of circles. It's a recurring theme, but on Friday I saw a friend of mine who I haven't seen since I lived here before, so probably 7 or 8 years, and it's actually the friend who can do dreadlocks, and yes, I do have them. And I will be showing you them in the next episode of Park Home Life. I'll give you a sneak preview of just one of them. Yep, you saw it here first. Anyway, that's a bit naughty to say that and then not show you myself, but anyway. But we were talking in the many hours that it took her to do my hair, and we were talking about the circles of life, and you know, we're having all those kinds of philosophical-ish conversations. So when I was doing this earlier, I had this bit of book page that had some circles printed on it, and this piece here that they don't show anymore, but this grungy collagey bit had circles on, and here's circles, and you know, I know many of us love circles as a shape. There's something kind of reassuring about them. So I thought I'd stamp and draw and whatever some circles on here. So I've got my ink pad. I think before I do that I see my little illegible text looking at me. I think I feel the need to just put some of that on there as well, just because I feel like it. Just kind of a bit more layering, a bit more fun to be had. Obviously you can do whatever you like. You could get pencil crayons and do some mark making, or some paint, or you know, what, the world is literally your oyster. You can do whatever you like. I just felt like doing that because I saw that there. So actually I'm going to get this is out of a set of letter stamps that I thrifted, and it's a letter O, but all the letters have got these circles around them, so I like to use it just as a shape. So I'm just going to stamp some of those. Don't know if I need ink every time. I don't mind if they're very distinct or not. Just going to go mad and just stamp lots and lots of circles all over the place. Okay, and then I think I will draw some circles with my micron pen. It could be any felt tip. I'm not going to put anything wet over the top anymore. Let's find the slightly wider one. That one is 0.5 millimetre. You know, just a pen. Doesn't have to be black. I just like the look of black pen against a coloured background, and I've got my circle template thing. So I'm just going to draw some circles, different sizes. It's a handy dandy template. Lots of them, as many as I feel like. And yeah, and then a song, my friend Martha has got the most wonderful singing voice, and so then when I was driving home I was thinking about circles of friendship, and you know, and I was singing to myself in the car, and I started singing the Circle Song by Joni Mitchell, and I think I will take some words from that for my spread, whatever my spread ends up being. Do you know what I'm thinking? When I've drawn circles all over this, I want bigger circles than that. I don't know if that is a bit too big. Oh, I've got this. That's my salty paint, or my painty salt. It's all got stuck on the lid. Is it really stuck? No, not completely. I think I'll draw around that. I think I'll draw around it that way because they are falling out as well, just to get some bigger circles. Again, they don't have to be perfect. Whoops, in fact they're not going to be perfect because that just moved. Let's do maybe 3 of those because it's quite tricky. And yeah, and my hair. I mean, I know hair is only hair, but it's such a thing to me. My hair, my dreadlocks. When I went to France in 2017, I had my full dreadlocks, which if you've been following along, you will have seen the photograph a few weeks ago when I did the photo spread of all the pictures of myself at various stages of my life. And I had to take them out because I couldn't manage them myself. I didn't have Martha. There was nobody, you know, locally who could help me. I wasn't supported in having them or doing anything about keeping them. I'll say no more than that. I'm going to do some more of these circles. And they were such a loss. It's hard to explain. You know, it's only hair, but it was such a part of me. Well, they were such a part of me. Some of them had names. I was talking to Martha about it. There was Deirdre Dreadlock, who was a pain, but I loved her. But she'd never lay flat, and you know, she just ploughed her own furrow, so to speak, up there on my head. So getting them back again, and now it's I don't know if you know anything about dreadlocks, or if you want to know anything about dreadlocks, but it's not something you just put them in and forget about it, especially when you've got relatively fine hair like mine, although my hair does dread perfectly well. They have to mature and so on. So you know, and I was saying, oh, if I'd only still had my dreadlocks that I had put in 10 years ago, the first set, the first lot, they would now be lovely and mature, but I've had to start again. But you know, that's life, isn't it? But I feel it's the moon time. I mean, it's not, you know, I'm too old for that kind of moon time, but I've talked before about how I think, I'm going to put some more circles up here, how I think that I'm affected by the moon phases, and I know many of you have said that you are too, and I don't know why that's never really occurred to me before. And it's full moon, is it full moon just or just gone? And I had that feeling again the day before I was due to go and see Martha, and I was thinking, oh, is this the right time to go and do this? And you know, but spending time with her, because she's wonderful. I just love her. She's a lovely, lovely soul. You know, in itself was a lovely way to spend the day. Stella came with me and made friends with Ozzy, Martha's cat, and was as good as gold. But to get my hair back, yeah, it was a huge moment, and I'm not yet at full glory. I will be. It's, you know, it's a process, and I will obviously show you and share with you. There's no more room for circles, so I think I'm going to call that enough. And now what I think I'm going to do is turn it over to the back and draw some bigger circles, which I need something to draw around. Excuse me while I look for something that's slightly less awkward than that. I could go and get a compass and do it that way, but that would require me getting up and going into the other room. Oh, have I got, I think I've got washi tape. That might be the right sort of size. Yes, that somebody sent me. They're all the same size. I quite like some different sizes. Those will be handy. I'm just going to use them to draw around. I think the smaller ones I can use this. And I wonder if that's handier. That's the pot that lid is supposed to be on. I don't want my head to come in now. I don't want you to see me until I'm, you know, in my full glory. You're all trying to peep now. I bet you all looked up without me even asking you when I said that. So I'm just going to draw some circles on the back, so I can't pick and choose. No, they're going to obviously overlap the ones I've drawn. I can't possibly know where they are. Whoops. So maybe I'll go ahead and do this so I can get my dready head in the way. I'm going to draw all different size circles all over this piece of paper, and then I'll be back when I've done that. Okay, I've drawn loads of circles. I switched to a pencil, it went a lot easier. And now I'm going to cut them all out. So you don't need to watch me do that either, I don't suppose. So they're all cut out. Can you see how yummy they are? They're even better than they were in my head. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you do things and they're not as good as they were in your head. Sometimes they're exactly as you expect, and other times, ooh, there's another one hiding. I just want to make millions of them and just put them everywhere. Just love them. Okay, so I've also got this pile of scraps, which I'll put in the collage because it's really interesting little scraps now. But yeah, hopefully it's less scraps than, well, it must be less scraps than we started with. And I feel like doing some stitching on them, only because Julie did stitching on her. She didn't do the circles, she did collages. Like I said, she painted on the tissue paper and then collaged onto that, and then she stitched into it. And stitching paper is the best fun, well, one of the best funs. So I've got my orts here, and I'm going to get a needle and get a smaller one than that. I have to unthread that. I'm still working on my roses, if you're following the comfort coverlet. So I've got my red and white threaded. I'm nearly done. Nearly done. And what colour shall I use? I think, since we're doing the friendship stars in the comfort of coverlet, and mine are red, pink and purple, I think I'll do red, pink and purple stitching. If I can find some pink. Down a minute. There's some pink. There's a big bit of pink. And some red. I'm not going to do masses of stitching, I don't think, just little bits here and there. So let's start with the red since it's in my hand. It's just normal embroidery floss. Don't know what I'm going to stitch yet. Oh, sorry. I sucked my thread and I sucked my finger as well, and it made a funny noise. Right. What shall we do? What shall we do? I'm just going to put a little knot in the back and be careful not to pull it through. I'm going to glue these into my journal, so the glue will hold the back, you know, the thread down on the back. Let's start with this little. Let's start with this little plain one. I think I'm going to just do some. I'm going to kind of respond to the marks, I think. So I'm going to do some couching stitches. Now, because it's paper, I'm not going to go in and out because it might tear. So I'm going to stab stitch. If you really want to make sure you come out on the right place when you're stitching paper, you can make yourself a guide hole from the front and then go through it from the back if you're bothered. Otherwise you can just go for it and let them be wonky. There's lovely stitching on paper. If you've never tried it, then I highly recommend giving it a go. This reminds me a little bit of Enso last year. Do you remember Enso Week, if you were following the Stitch Journal last year? When we drew the shape in with one movement and then stitched over it. Or I did black on white and then I think I couched over it in red. Did I couch over it in red or black? I can't remember. That's what it reminds me of. And that's 5 stitches, so I'm going to leave it at that. So to finish off, I'm just going to go under, because obviously you can't do back stitches, it's not cloth. I'm just going to go under that other stitch and then not quite pull up the loop and just go through the loop, pull it up tight, and like I said, the glue will hold it down. So that one's done. Cute. I thought stitching would come into my mixed media journal at one point, and here we are. So I'm just looking at the others and just seeing if one shouts at me. I like this because it's got the gold. This is where I cleaned my gold watercolour. I might just do the same again around that. I quite like that, so why not? When I used to do talks years ago, when I lived in England before I went to France, I used to do talks for you know, stitching groups and embroidery guilds and the Women's Institute and things like that. And I have my dreadlocks, of course. And at the end of my talk I would say, right, has anybody got any questions, you know, and people invariably had questions about my work, but also there were always lots and lots of questions about my hair. And I started to think about my hair as just one of my pieces of textile art that I was there showing, you know, in my talk. They were kind of questions like, do you take it out at night? No, I don't. Like I said, I think it took Martha 9 hours yesterday to put it in. So no. Do I wash it? Yes, I do. Just how? Yes, you just wash it. Yeah, it's just a textile that I wear on my head, basically. My hair, plus there's some extensions. But I then, well, I've got a few in already, but I embellish with sari silk and embroidery floss and bits of yarn and beads, and it's like a mixed media collage that I wear. I think that's partly why I loved it so much, and now I've got it back. Yay! So yeah, and then at the end of my talks, all the ladies, it was invariably ladies, would come up to, you know, I say come up and touch and feel and, you know, look at my work if you want to in close-up. Here there's kind of a line there, so I think I'm going to do that same couchy thing over that line kind of thing. Yeah, and often I would be talking to some people in front of me and I'd feel tugging. Some ladies behind me would be examining my hair up close. Yeah, I missed it, and it's a moment. And thank you. When I mentioned it a little while ago, I think I showed the photo, but I think I also talked about it in a Park Home Life or something. So many of you were encouraging me to just go and do it, and for that I'm grateful. Yeah, that's cool, I like that. Just adds a little, it's another texture, it's kind of a surprise in paper to see stitching. I think that's partly why I like it. It's a little bit unexpected. Go through the right place. Like I said, I'm not too worried because the glue will hold everything down. I hope I'm not putting them where you can't see them if you want to see them. Let's do this one. I quite like the red against the lighter colours. In fact, I quite like the red. I mean, I don't have to use the pink and the purple. We'll see. Let's do the same thing again if it ain't broke. Just the sound of the thread going through the paper as well is lovely, isn't it? I was just letting you listen to the sound. I managed to stay quiet for a whole, what was it, 20 seconds? So there, I came up a bit close to the edge, but I'm just going to go with it and do a teeny tiny stitch. And it's not that unpleasant to sew through. I mean, I've got one of my tulip needles, it's pretty sharp. But I think because of the tissue paper, you know, for a foundation. I guess if you didn't have tissue paper, you could just use a really thin copy paper. Or some really thin packaging paper of some kind. But I've got quite a lot of the tissue. And actually, the fact that it wasn't wet strength was fine. I mean, because I didn't paint on it, I think maybe if you painted on it, you'd have to, that's going to loop you. You'd have to have wet strength, I don't know. But even with the bits of tissue that I was collaging, at one point I just did put the Mod Podge on the surface of the yellow tissue paper and then stick the other bit of tissue on the top. This one. So there's another straight line. I seem to be now looking for these straight lines so that I can do this couching over them. But that's about the process. And actually, I do that when I'm stitching stitching stitch meditation scrolls. If I'm stitching along the length of the thing, if I see an edge that's kind of shouting at me because there's a contrast between the high contrast between the two cloths, or if it's a bit of an edge that's been cut so it's not lovely and fluffy or something like that, then I do this over it. So it's me doing it, but doing what I do on cloth on paper. That makes sense. I think I might just get one more out of this little bit of thread, and then I might try one of my other colours. I just think they're so cool. I hope you like them. I hope you have a go. Like I said, if you haven't got as fat, I mean, I'm lucky that I've got my friend who does all the jelly printing and all that. But some of this is, I mean, this is just paper napkin. This is out of a magazine. There's old book page. It doesn't have to be anything really spectacular. I think if you just put enough of it together. And I did it completely random. I wasn't doing composition or anything. I think it's just then the nature of cutting the circles out and making a regular shape, and you could, if you didn't want to do circles, you could do, you know, any shape you liked. And then you get these mini little abstract pieces of art. Let's call it art. Who's going to stop us? Right, so let's try one of the other colours. This is fun. See, I started off with a vague idea of, oh, I'll just collage some scraps down, when in doubt collage, and then I had circles in my head, and I was singing the Joni Mitchell song in the car, like I said, and it's all come together. Well, I haven't got it in my journal yet. Let's not count the someone told me that, and that is an expression we use here as well. Someone in the States, I'm sorry, I don't remember who. Another expression my granny used to say, if she didn't remember, she'd say, I've slept since then. What was I saying? Oh yes, counting your chickens before they're hatched. I was counting my circles before they were stuck in my journal. Right. So I'm going to have a go with this dark purple. And I can get it through my needle. Yeah, and as Martha was doing my hair, which she does with a crochet hook, I said, well, and she does needle felt as well, she does various crafty bits and bobs. And she said, well, basically it's exactly the same thing as needle felting, and you're doing it with your hair. And it doesn't hurt, well, not when Martha does it, though I know there are other people who aren't as gentle. I haven't experienced it myself, but people have told me that it hurts. But she didn't hurt me. Well, she doesn't hurt anybody. That little piece of paper there is, I don't know whether it's got extra Mod Podge on. It's that tissue, or maybe it's the stuff that was on it. It just feels a little bit more resistant, although it was only tissue paper. And I felt that knot. Be careful with paper because it tears. Got it. I'm doing the same thing, just in a different colour, but you know, apparently it's what my hands want to do, so I'm letting them. Yes, I didn't even really have a colour theme. Often I pick a colour theme even though I'm picking scraps, but today I just literally grabbed a handful. One more stitch, I think. So I think you get the idea. So I'll go ahead and do the others. probably with the same thing, since that's what I seem to be doing. It's probably a bit like watching paint dry, watching me do that over and over. So yeah, I'll go ahead and finish stitching on them all, and then I'll be back with you to see how I'm going to put them in the journal. I suspect I'm just going to stick them in and write the words somewhere, but who knows, it might change. So don't go away. Okay, I've done a bit of stitching on all of them. Mostly I did that overcasting thing, but on this one I did a little patch of seed stitch. There I just did 3 simple little stitches in a row. This one I just put a tiny cross. Just, you know, just whatever I felt like. And then I spied this little jar of buttons, and buttons are circles too, aren't they? Well, not all buttons, but most. So I thought maybe I would put some buttons on. And I think I'm going to do that with a knot. Let me get this small needle again. And just 1 strand of floss will be enough in a journal. So what I'm going to do is not make a knot in my thread, but I'm going to come down. I'm going to put a button there because that hasn't stuck down properly, so I'm going to kind of use the button to anchor it down. So I've got my these are little pearl buttons that Vicky sent me. So I'm going to thread the button on first, not all the way through, and then go into the paper, and I'm going to hold my end, leave myself a tail, and then come back up about as far away as the holes in the button are, more or less. I'm probably doing this the hardest possible way, but that's how I thought of it. And then I'll come back through the other hole in the button. So I've got my 2 tails on the top. I'm going to pull that up slightly. I'll move those out of the way. Maybe more helpful. And then I'm just literally going to tie a little knot, maybe a double knot, on the top. Like a series, just to hold the button on. I'm going to leave those as a delivery parked outside. Stella might bark in a minute. It's not for me, I don't think, but it's a neighbour. So I'm going to do, shall I do that on all? I think I might just do that on only the big ones. I don't think I want to do it on all of them. Obviously you can do whatever you want. Just decide where and get a button. Maybe it's easier to hold the button in place and do it as if you were sewing it on, and then do the guide hole thing that I talked about. That's a better way of doing it. Yeah, do it that way. Don't do it the first way I did it. Tie the knot. There's a quote about buttons. I don't know if it's an actual quote, but I certainly remember writing it in a journal somewhere. And I can't remember it now. It's something about where would we be without buttons? We would be undone, or something like that. So I'm a bit tired today. Again, it is the full moon still. The effects thereof. I'm trying my best not to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy type thing, you know, where you think you're going to be in a certain mood, so you are. You kind of talk yourself into it. I'm trying not to do that. That's when you're self-aware, you know, this is my year of being self-aware, and hopefully it'll go on longer than a year, but it's more to create the habit in myself, because it's not something I think I've ever really had. I was brought up to believe all that kind of thing was self-indulgent and you know, not really supposed to just get on with it and all that kind of thing. And I do get on with it, and I do try and get on with it when I can, but sometimes we just can't, can we? And then I think we do have to give ourselves a little bit of grace. As I've told you before, as a dear friend told me, and it stays in my head, treat yourself with the same grace that you treat a friend. if they were struggling. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, about being self-aware. Being self-aware, but at the same time not... It would have been called wallowing, but that sounds very negative and judgy. I don't want to be negative and judgy. Not of myself, and certainly not of anybody else. But it's, yeah. I hope you know what I mean. Right, one more button. I like those with their little tails. They're little, without buttons we would be undone, or whatever the quote was. If it is an actual quote and not just something I've made up, and you know it, do feel free to tell me. Right, that's the last one. I'm going to get my journal in. Get that needle off there now. And see how we're going to stick them in. Well, I'm going to stick them in with glue. I think I might have to use the, I keep saying sorry, that's tiredness. I might have to use the heavy matte medium, the medium, because I'm sorry. I'm sticking onto my gessoed bit of sheet, which you probably almost certainly are not. Sticking onto a bit of gessoed sheet. Let's get the journal in. Here's my journal, all dry, all a bit curly, but the advantage of a journal is the minute I close it, it will flatten itself out again. Yes, this is a image transfer that I did a long time ago of a laser printed photograph onto this bit of gessoed old sheet. And next week I'm going to work on her, but you probably don't have an image transfer unless it's something you do anyway. So I think what I'll do is I will do an image transfer separately to show you how I did it. There's many millions of ways of doing it. I'll just show you how I did it. And then, you know, go from, and then I'll work on this one, so I'll do a separate one. So if you've been, a few people have been asking me, so if you've been waiting for image transfer, then next week is the week, because there she is. But this week we're here, and we're going to stick our circles on. They're just going to look great against that plain background, I think. There's hundreds of them. There's 5 million of them. I don't know how many there are, I haven't counted them. I do have 38 dreadlocks because Martha counted them, I asked her to. Could have counted them myself, but you know. No, that's another expression my granny used to use. I think it's Yorkshire. It might be completely northern or it might be from all over. But anyway, the expression is, I can't find my medium, that's not the expression. The expression is, you don't keep a dog and bark yourself. Which means that if you can get someone else to do something for you, then you don't have to do it. And then that's kind of a sarcastic way of saying, you know, oh, you don't keep a dog and bark yourself. If you can get someone else to, you know, do the whatever it is, put out the bins or whatever. Right. I'm just going to check I've put you back in the right place, because I always creep over to the right. And look at them. I'm so pleased. Can you tell I'm pleased with them? I'm not often so pleased with something I do, certainly not in this media, which is not my comfort zone. But these little babies, I just think you could put them any old who, and they would, but of course I straight away have to start rearranging them. Like planting bulbs, you know, they say you throw them, don't they? If you want to naturalise bulbs in grass, for example, you're supposed to just throw them and then plant them where they land. Well, I have done that in the past, and then I've fiddled about with them. I need somewhere to write my Joni words. Maybe I'll write them down here. I want to write the whole chorus, so I need some room. I can write it by hand small and have to stamp it. I'm just going to do that. I think I'm just going to do that. Circles all over the place. I'm going to get my brush, which is a bit wet still. And I'm going to glue them up. Put my glue book away. I'll use this. There's enough room, I expect. I spec. That's Somerset for I expect. I spec. And hope that they stick to this. It's gessoed, so they should. Who said proudly recently in the Facebook group they've got gesso? I think it was it you, Breeder? Breeder, who's going on this mixed media journey with me, with us. And she's never really done it before. I think it was you. Oh, that sticks nicely. Said, I think it was in capitals, I've bought gesso. Look at that. Stop going on about it, Catherine. Now it's verging on pride, which comes before a fall, doesn't it? I just like it, and I'm allowed to like it, and you're allowed to like your work as well. You're also allowed, we're referring back to Mary Ellen's video about a mulligan. It was a mulligan, and I looked it up while I was having my lunch. You're also allowed to make art that you don't like. That is a thing, it's an actual thing. Make bad art. Just make it. You'll always at least learn something, even if you just learn what you don't like. Hopefully you enjoy the process, no matter what the outcome. That is a challenge, I know. That's not sticking so nicely, but never mind. You know, you might enjoy the process and not like the outcome, and then suddenly go on a downward spiral, you know, and go and flop and go, oh, well, I just wasted my time. No, you didn't waste your time, because if you enjoyed it, even if you didn't enjoy it, there's always something you can, whoops, sorry for the tutting, there's always something you can gain from it. And what I like as well about working in a journal is you can just turn the page. Said that before. I think that working in a journal is very liberating. I hope they do stay stuck, otherwise I'm going to have to get the stinky glue on them. This looks like a little baseball, but that's okay, it's allowed to look like a little baseball. Okay, there we go, I'm all done. I've written the words on. I thought I might as well. I think one of the reasons I love it so much is that it's a little bit like the grid journaling, although the process is different. The outcome has got a similar feel to it as those little mini abstracts with all the space in between. So, you know, you could do squares, you could do star shapes, you could do hearts, you could do anything. But I've gone with the circles, and the chorus of the song, The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell, is, and the seasons they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. So that's this week's Journal for All Seasons. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will have a go, because it was the best fun. I started with not much of a plan, and often those are the best fun, because you don't have kind of preconceived ideas about the outcome, referring back to again to Mary Ellen's video about the mulligan, the do-over. And also do check out Julie's lovely video where she's put the tissue paper and the stitching on it and collage into my head at the Stillroom Journals. I will link those two videos in the description box below this video. And meanwhile, thank you so much for watching, thank you for being here, and I look forward to you joining me next time for more journaling tales. Bye bye.